Just scheduled. Now we're live.
Oh my God, we're alive.
We're alive and we're live. Wow. Okay. So, welcome everyone to this very first Wolf of Possibilities podcast for 2024 and the very first ever live edition. And as today's guest, we have Simone Milasas and Dr. Dain Heer, who will guide us into our topic for today, which is brave new relationships. And this is a huge topic, eternally relevant, and with as many points of views as there are people in the world. So, to kick it off, I have picked 4 relationship terms that I would like each of your take on. So, are you willing and ready for that?
Is that the time? Oh my God, the doorbell's going. I gotta go. No.
What? Oh no, me too. Whatever you said, that's happening for me too. Like when here we are, we got to do it now. Otherwise, we look like the assholes.
Exactly. And it's perfect for the first one. So look here. You two are creationship explorers. And creationship is like the first term. And I looked it up and it says creationship is the continuous contribution to each other. So what is creationship for you two?
Dain? Me? Well, okay. The one, okay. I'm intrigued that you looked it up because I thought that we termed that in your lounge room, Dain, in Houston, Texas one day. And came up with creation.
That's where she looked it up.
Oh, okay. There you go. Instead of relationship. And so for me, one of the things that Gary has said for many, many, many years, and, Dain has said it also, and myself, etc., is if you're going to choose to be in a relationship, it should create at least 20 times more together than what you would alone. And that was one of the first things I ever heard in Access Consciousness in regards to relationship that I went, wow, that's such a really cool concept. Because the first class I ever went to, the first time I ever heard Gary Douglas speak live was in Sydney. And he was doing a relationship class, an evening class. And I was not interested in relationship at all. I was like, I don't do relationship. I don't see a good one. Why would I choose one? Oh yeah, notice the question in there. There's not. And what I noticed I was doing later was I was just referencing every other relationship I saw in order to choose one for me, rather than going, well, what if I wanted to create one? Okay. And so that's the first time I ever heard Gary talk about relationship. And that's something that he said. And it was also the first time in my life I walked out of listening to him talk and I went, holy shit, I'm not wrong for what it is that I desire to choose. Because, I don't know, growing up, it's like you're wrong if you don't have a boyfriend, or you're wrong if you only have a boyfriend for a short amount of time, or you're not looking to get married, or you're not looking to have kids, or da-da-da. You're not falling into what I would say is the linearity and the traps of this reality. Choice is eliminated. And for me, creationship is about
profound.
The choice that you get to have. Like, what is it for you, because we're all so different. And I'm always talking in the relationship, done different classes. You got to look at what works for you, like what works for you. And it might change. What works for you this year might be totally different in next month or next year or in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. But what actually works for you? And I think that's the beginning of a creationship, is getting clear, not from conclusion, of the energy that it is that you would like to have with your relationships. And then they can be termed a creationship. And I've got one more thing I want to say about that before we go to Dr. Dain. Just because you call it a creationship doesn't mean it is one. That's a mic drop, okay? Yeah. You can't just name something creationship and go, see, I'm in creationship. It's actually, you got to put some work into it, okay?
So how do you know you are? How do you know you're in a creationship?
Wait, when do I get to answer? When do I get to talk?
Goals here, Dain.
Oh, I see. Oh, hello, typical relationship. Yeah. Hey, ladies, let's get together and talk. Let's let the man just sit there looking stupid.
No, looking handsome. Looking handsome and a little cold.
Looking handsome and cold. All right, I'll take it. See, and there's the other thing. When you tell a man, hey, you're handsome, he doesn't care if he gets to talk. Basically, for a man's point of view in relationship is, does she like the way I look and am I getting laid? Okay, great relationship. Nothing else matters. Anyway, creationship. Okay, I want to say the thing that Simone got to the awareness of was her difference. And what she said was, when you're having a creationship, it's basically this. It's having a sense of what's different about you, that's what's actually true for you, that you desire, and being able to be with somebody who will contribute to that, not get in the way of that. That's a creationship.
Yeah.
Now back to you.
Well, so how do you know, like, how are you sure if you have one? You can name it that, but then what?
I would
How do you
say
know?
you actually stop trying to come to conclusion that you have one.
So the creationship itself is in creation continuously.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, okay, so here's what I would look at too, is always the willingness to let go of anyone. For me, that would be part of it as well, because it's like if you're trying to hold on to someone or something, a relationship, then you've just stopped the creationship of it. Because the creationship for me should be the willingness to let go of it at any moment. Because it works for today.
Well,
is it going to work for tomorrow? Be in question. Does it?
okay,
Yes,
hold.
Oh.
You say that as though anybody is willing to or capable of it. But let's be with that for just a moment. You know what it's like when you're with your partner, and we're talking about, this is actually a relationship of all kinds, okay? And we keep talking about this, but of course, the most sticky relationship is the one that's the most sticky at the time, whichever one it is. So these tools help to make it greater, but also to unstick it. But that thing about being willing to let it go at any time, think about the times in your relationship where, in any relationship, a friendship or otherwise, where you had that. How much ease was there? It wasn't, you weren't with them based on a need that you decided that only they could fulfill.
Yeah.
And that's where we get really in the place of that's the sticking point, why we're not willing to allow it to morph and grow into whatever it could be, because we've decided that there's a need that we have. We've decided there's a need that only they can fulfill, or only they can fulfill in a particular way. And that is always what sticks us.
Yeah.
So, and also think about what it's like when you're with somebody who is needy of you, who's like, no, don't leave me. No, don't. And they have all these don'ts, because if you do, you might no longer fulfill their needs. But every need for an infinite being is a lie. So if we get underneath it to what is true for us as beings, which sounds a little corny, but it's not. It's actually a lot easier than I'm making it sound. But if we can acknowledge that, we'd realize, wow, as the being I am, I don't actually have any needs. This is something I'm inventing. How much greater could things be if I didn't? And allow ourselves to walk ourselves to that place beyond the need of another. And when you're beyond the need, then that person can be the contribution that they are. But also then the relationship can actually be a creationship, because it's not about stopping it so they will always fulfill your needs in a particular way. It's about letting it grow into being able to contribute to each other in the world in greater ways than you can currently imagine.
What's interesting is, no, go on.
I know that so many people, when we talk about relationship, they go to the person that they're having sex with, or the person that they'd like to have sex with. And as you're talking, there's so many different relationships that are showing up in my world, from, colleagues, friends, or family, etc. And one of the things I've been exploring recently is relaxation. Like, I know it sounds easy, not actually as easy as what it sounds like. And what I've noticed is, one of the things that would show up in my world is, if I truly choose relaxation, I'm going to lose something, and I'm going to lose. And the interesting enough, when I was really vulnerable with it, I went, oh, I'm going to lose Gary, and I'm going to lose Dain, and I'm going to lose access if I choose total relaxation. And then I was talking to these guys about it, and Gary was saying, what if you didn't look at what you lose, and what if you looked at what you gain? And I think that's one thing that also that's pretty cool to have a look at with creationship is, so what I've been look at every area of my life where, because you instantaneously go, I'll be alone, I'm going to lose. Like these are like, it's almost like programming that you go to for these things. And then I'm stopping and going, okay, if I wasn't in this like mentality, this mindset of I'm about to lose something, what can I gain? What am I going to gain? You know, and it's, for me, it's like exploding into a different possibility. And creationship is about exploding into a different possibility, like every moment, every day, every nanosecond, every week, every year, everything, with every choice that you make.
And it's like the relaxation actually gives it space to do that. It gives it space to explode into something different.
Yep.
It's beautiful. Do you want to add something, Dain?
No, I think it's great. Exactly that. And that relaxation, if you see that the other thing that occurs with that, and you see where this comes into the need conversation, which whenever we have, either a facilitation or a class about relationship, a certain part of it, of course, is addressing the lie of need and undoing that. And when you have that, you don't need to control anymore to try to control the outcome. And then you can actually relax, and then there's space. And the beauty of it is there's space for them to be things they never knew they could be, sometimes with another person and themselves. But there's also space for you to become things that you never knew you could be with yourself and another person. And that really is creationship.
Well,
I want to add one more thing here, because the thing that, I mean, if you're listening to this and you have attended an Access Consciousness class, yay, and you would have heard the tool in Foundation, we talk about being an infinite being. I've been involved with Access for 22 years, using the tools, facilitating, being involved in business, etc. And I have referred to infinite being, and as an infinite being, you can perceive, know, be, and receive, right? Man, I've talked about that, but actually indulging in that concept is something totally, I'm going to say totally new for me now with this relaxation. Because if you look at what Dain just spoke about, an infinite being gets to receive more, like everything with no point of view. And therefore you get, and they all hold hands together. As you receive, you're being more, you know more, you can perceive more. And I mean, I can speak for myself. It's like I touched the fucking surface of that, like, and then would step back and step back. And it's like, now I'm definitely not saying I've got this at all, but man, has there been doors that have opened up that I'm like, whoa, you can receive even more, you can be even more, you can know even more and perceive it with no point of view. Like all those tools come into play. Interesting point of view, all of it.
That's an interesting, see, if we look from, and this goes to what you said at the very beginning, where Gary said, do a relationship if it's going to create 20 times more, then that's a good relationship. And if we look at this, so the expansion in your perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving is, because there's basically two ways to go about our relationship: control it or let it contribute. And that's a bit of a simplification, okay? But with what you're talking about, and if we apply that to the awareness that one of the most enriching things in our lives is the interaction that we have with others. Yes. And if that interaction also allows us to be greater, and that interaction is not about, once again, getting our needs fulfilled or being the fulfiller of their needs as the primary form and the primary reason, etc. It's like, it's what you're talking about, and what we're talking about is it being creative and generative and contributory rather than what people have thought they have to do to get by, to have one for all of the other reasons that aren't that. And we've learned a lot of those growing up, and recognize what like Simone said, like, what would you like? Would you like to have a relationship that's contributory, or to have it be based on needs and not being contributory?
Well, and man, I've walked down that control street. And you think that control street's going to create something greater. Breaking news, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things I wanted to ask with this interaction with others, so one of the words of the year is riz with the Z in the end, and it basically means like style, charm, attractiveness, the ability to attract someone. But what is, like, where you function now, where you are now in the world, what is rizzy to you? Like, what's attractive to you? Who and what pulls you in?
I'm going to say kindness and like that sense of joy and people just being them no matter what.
That somebody, I agree, kindness, and somebody who's truly authentic, and somebody who is really smart and also has a sense of humor and loves to laugh.
And he's 6'3" and he's, but no, I'm kidding.
Well, and you know, you talk about the riz,
walk on the beach, no,
and pina coladas getting caught in the rain.
Exactly.
You talk about the riz, and what's interesting, I've seen that word many times. I'm like, okay, it must be a new word. What is it? Thank you for defining it for me. But we often think that if we're looking, there's always two sides to any relationship. Hey, unless there's 3 people, and then there's 27 sides. But it's an exponential factoring system if you have it geometric. Okay,
it's a numbers game.
That's right, big time. But so, in other words, like, what is that to us? And then we look at a lot of us. It's so interesting, because the other side of that is, what is that we're presenting to the world, and how do we see it?
Yeah.
Do we see ourselves as riz? I need to know how the kids are saying this. You know, I don't know. I don't even know whether it's a verb, a vowel, an adverb, an adjective, but it's like, do we see ourselves that way? Or do we then try to create an image to make ourselves seen as valuable by others, which of course is the opposite of authenticity, like we're talking about. But if we can recognize that truly, and we're seeing this all around the world, where the most attractive thing, if you ask almost anybody, the most attractive thing is somebody truly being them, somebody who's actually authentic. And so, what if
somebody being
alive?
Yeah.
For us, that's a big one. For all 3 of us, and probably everybody watching, that's a big one. And so, what if we looked at that and recognized all that image stuff and all the me I've been putting out there, like, you know, mate attractant? Maybe that's not what it requires. Maybe me showing up as I actually am, quirks and all, and maybe me exploring those quirks so I know what they are and can enjoy them. Maybe that's how I find somebody who can play in Quirkland with me, rather than believing I've got to hide 90% of me from somebody, because if they find it, they're going to judge me or go away, you know? And here's another interesting part. We've been on for about 20 minutes. We've talked about a lot of things, and you start to realize that there are a lot more aspects of this than most people are talking about.
Yeah.
You know? And were this a class, we'd be puck and potting and changing the points of view that come up along the way. But it's like there's, and the only way, sorry, ADHD, there's a lot more to this than people realize. There's a lot more to this than most people are talking about. And then the other thing is, in that, the only way to get to all of those layers is to actually have these conversations, go on the exploration, which of course is, you know, what the different classes are about that we do in this area.
Can I add too, though, again, the various relationships is, and the being you and the authenticity is, we had a meeting the other day, Dain and myself, and with someone who works in our financial sector of Access. And he said to me, what do I need to get ready? Because we're meeting with Dain. And I went, nothing. I said, we're just doing the meeting that you were going to do with me. I said, but I wanted Dain on because I want him to be a part of this, thing. And he goes, when it's Gary or Dain, he went, it's just got this energy that, like, I've got to, be a lot more, whatever, organized or something, like there's a different. And I went, no, I said, it's fine. It's Dain. And I was so grateful because we had this meeting, and the beginning of it, Dain's at his house and like the blind and everything that was going on. Dain was just being him. And it just set this mode for this meeting that we could just relax and go, okay, what are we looking at here? Be in question and truly have a creationship with the business as well and everyone working in it. Okay. And then I had a conversation with another guy that we work with, and I was telling him about it. And he said, Simone, he said, do you know how interesting it was coming to work with Access? Because previously, when you were having a meeting with, you would say, senior management, he said, I'd have to have my presentations ready, and I'd have to, make sure that I was all, sitting direct and and I'd have to have everything uniform. And he said, and you guys are just like, so, hey, what's going on? What's up? What are we doing? What are we changing? And we're in question, and we are creating a different reality together that leads way more to something that is beyond this reality by us being authentic and being ourselves in business. And that's a different relationship in business that you can create as well. And we're not all having sex, so it takes it beyond that.
True story.
Yeah. In the last term that I was looking at was actually communion. And I looked that up too. And communion, according to the definitions that I found online, was the sharing or exchanging of intimate thoughts and feelings. And that seems limited in the way that we look at it. So if you describe communion, or you just gave an example, I think, of a kind of communion, but if you were to explain that to someone, how would you do that? What is communion?
Oneness, where everything exists and everyone and everything exists. No one and nothing is judged, where there is no need to judge or separate from any part of you, no need to judge or separate from any part of another. And to the extent that you realize that it is far less true that there is you and another, and there is simply we.
And I would give a practical example if you want to actually acknowledge how much you can choose to be in communion, and you are in communion. Just be in nature, your body and nature. And that's actually who you be. Lie on the grass, not if you're cold. I get that. In the snow, some of you in really cold places, touch a tree. It's like, be in the ocean, anything. It's like, that's you.
And what if you had that? What if you were something that would allow you to have that with people also?
Yeah.
And then what would that take? What would that look like? And what can you choose that would allow that? Because if you had that, how much would that undefine every stickiness that exists with every interaction with every person?
So I think both of you have mentioned to me at some point that you have had communion with Gary, the founder of Access Consciousness. And my sense is that it looks very different than we think it does. So when you have communion with someone, what is it like? How would you describe that? A person.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
And never fixed. It's not something you settle into. It's something that is always malleable and changing. It doesn't have a fixed, solid place. Just if the second I've ever thought that I could define my relationship with Gary, he'll go, and you just go, what the fuck just happened? And you're like, okay. And I learned over the years to go, okay, don't even try and slide into you can define anything, because it's not definable.
It's like in movement. energy and movement continues.
Yeah, even the words limit stuff. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Do you want to add something, Dain?
Well, also, it's not perfect,
Mm.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not a fucking Disney musical,
Mm-mm.
a Disney cartoon, where, there was this girl who, who she was growing up. She's like, I thought that was real. I always expected the birds to come in and dress me. And she would continually have birds who would fly against against her window and break their necks. And so, I mean, this girl's a princess of magnitude, right? Well, but it's not that, and nor does it need to be, and nor are you wrong or less. You're actually greater because it's not that, and you don't try to make it that. I think a lot of what people judge in their relationships is they don't match the image of what it was supposed to be, which then, of course, I say those words and you can tell immediately that you're not present with who you and they in the relationship are in that moment, period. But if you didn't have to do that, communion is, communion is also where the 5 elements of intimacy, which are honoring, trust, allowance, vulnerability, and gratitude, are present the whole time. And there are also times, because you live in this world and people are people and people have histories and people have stuff where you feel less close than you might have yesterday. Or usually what happens is you'll have a moment, you'll start on a conversation that you think is nothing. It will lead you to some dynamic awareness where you go, oh my God, now I can acknowledge it, but we haven't, in the past few months, we haven't been nearly as close as we were. Interesting. Nice to have you back, my friend. And so, but it's not, oh, we were wrong, you did this, you did this. It was like, oh, wow, I forgot how much closeness we actually have and can have. This feels wonderful. So glad to have it again. It's a totally different take and we're not trying to make anybody right or make anybody wrong for what you've got. We're just trying to present possibilities for what might be more fun to choose that actually work for you and all of your different forms of relationship partners.
Well, can I add to that too, that it's, because thank you for saying that, Dain, it's about the not perfect thing too, because being in communion, I think people have misidentified that as everything's like, whoa, and it's not about aligning and agreeing with each other at all. Some of my best friends in the world, which is 2 of you as well, is we've had run-ins, we've had moments where you have this like whatever, but underlying that is the 5 elements of intimacy, as Dain said. So that's where that for me is the communion. You have that 5 elements of intimacy. You might clash, you might have, different points of view. You're like, whatever, but underlying is what communion is. And then all this other stuff up here is just part of how you get to discover and explore more of yourself.
Yeah. And one other thing I want to mention about what communion allows, or what a possibility in relationship is, because a lot of people avoid this. When you're functioning from communion, you can also see the person's limitations. You don't try to see them as perfect, because none of us is. And you can see the places where they're fixed in their point of view, or where they're a little crazy or a little whatever, but you don't have a judgment of it. And you don't hold it against them, and you're not waiting to be able to tell them how wrong they are. Ha ha ha. And you also don't
That's
keep
a really
scorecard.
good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Well, so we're nearly at the end, and you are both co-facilitating a relationship done different class at the end of February, or in February.
First time ever.
For the first time ever. So
Ever.
if anybody it's a premiere. So if anybody listening to this would love to try a tool to do their relationship different, what would be just one tool that they could test out before this class?
Everything my relationship was before this moment, I now desolidify, melt, destroy and uncreate it and let it go. And I make the choice from this moment to be creative in this relationship and to recognize the gift that this relationship and this person are, and the gift of having me is in my life.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you.
And I would say, don't judge what you've decided you lack, because what you have is what you are currently choosing. Embrace that and ask for more.
Mm.
Boom.
Boom. Boom. Okay.
Boom, boom, boom. Let's go back to my room so we can do it.
Do it on that. Gonna make you feel right. Boom, boom. Oh, okay. During the class, we probably will sing "You're Welcome." And also,
The world might be out of judgment, Dain.
and we'll tell you the story behind it about the world getting out of judgment, which will allow Simone and Chutissa Bowman, a friend of ours, to be able to sing "You're Welcome." You know, I'm looking forward to doing this class with you, Simone, because we have the same target which is empowering people to be the greatness of them and create the greatest creationships possible. But we look from enough of a different perspective to be able to, if I may say, fill in each other's gaps, mind the gap. No, just, you know. And so for me, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm really excited about this exploration because also it does seem like there's a different door open. Seems like there's something different available where people can actually hear more of what actually is true for them and function from that. And that is the recipe for the beginnings of truly creating great relationships in all areas.
Yeah. Well said. Me too, Dain. I am very much looking forward to it as well.
Okay. And if any of you listening would like to check it out, there'll be a link somewhere close to this live. So check it out there. And thank you. Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah, you can visit. You can do it online. We're going to be in Australia, mate, but you can do it online. You can just zoom in.
How do you spell it?
Brady Bunch of consciousness. Straya.
S-T-R-A-Y-A. Straya.
Exactly.
Straya.
Awesome.
So until then, thank you both so much. And
thank you.